Oh, so you could say Captain Kirk, but I can't say Indiana Jones.
Yeah, because the Shatner doesn't care, and I'm sure that... Who owns Star Trek? Welcome to Talk About Scary, the show where we do just that. Talk about scary places. I'm Adam.
I'm Clay.
Hey guys. And you are now receiving part 2 of our report. That is peaking our
Indiana Jones in the peak.
That's right. We are talking, this is part 2 about the Bridgewater Triangle. So if you haven't heard part 1 yet, I would suggest you go listen to part 1 because it's a lot.
It's all about Indiana Jones.
We shouldn't be even saying that in our podcast. But anyway, yeah, go listen to part 1 if you haven't heard it yet. There's a really good backstory about the Bridgewater Triangle you're going to probably want to listen to before you jump into all this great stuff. Spoiler alert. It gets worse. There's a lot more stuff in this one. So, enjoy. So, hey, Clay.
Oh, hey.
Hey. So, Bridgewater Triangle, here we go. So, we talked about Profile Rock in our last one. And just for a recap, it is the supposed site of where Wampanoag historical figure Anawan received the lost wampum belt from Philip. And people say they can see a ghost sitting on the rock with his legs crossed or with outstretched arms. And that's in Freetown Fall, River State Forest.
And for sure now, if you were like, I don't need to listen to part 1, you're thinking, yeah, I should go listen to part 1 because Adawan, Pon sitting there getting a belt, Bucci, Pom, in Freefont, yeah.
It's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff.
And it's Freetown Fall, River State Forest. But I always put a weird pause when I'm reading stuff like fall and river. But
imaginary commas.
Yeah, I do the Captain Kirk a lot, so I gotta be careful.
Oh, so you could say Captain Kirk, but I can't say Indiana Jones.
Yeah, because the Shatner doesn't care, and I'm sure that... Who owns Star Trek now?
I don't know.
It ain't Disney, so I'm okay.
Paramount?
Maybe.
They got their shows on Paramount Plus.
Yeah. Paramount's cool, though. Disney will take you down. But whatever.
It's an open invitation, Disney.
It is. Don't take
Come take me for my dimes that I have.
They will take you for all your dimes that you have. That is guaranteed. Love you, Disney. I have some of your stock. Please don't ever come after us. Okay. So the next stone is called Solitude Stone. This is kind of a spooky one, so enjoy it. It's an inscribed stone located near Forest Street in West Bridgewater, which was found near a missing person's body, also known as Suicide Stone. The rock was found with the inscription, this is difficult, so bear with me, all ye who in future days walk by Nunkatesset stream, love not him who hummed his lay cheerful to the parting beam, but the beauty that he wooed.
Beam me up, Scotty.
And so, again, we mentioned this in the other episode. In New England, there's a lot of granite and there's a lot of huge boulders. This boulder isn't the hugest of boulders, but it's pretty big. And sometimes there's inscriptions of things. Sometimes there's petroglyphs, which is kind of crazy. And again, we talked about this in the last episode. A lot of the petroglyphs of the Native American tribes in this area resemble a lot of the petroglyphs of ancient Gaelic people, Irish people. The natives of Ireland before they were what we know them to be today, which is the
drinkers,
guy from the Lucky Charms box.
Leprechauns.
So I think that's kind of interesting. I love anthropology and archaeology. This is right up my alley. I find it so fascinating. And we will have the picture of this stone on our Instagram, so check it out. Very easy to find, Clay. If not, I'll send it to you. I actually have a link in my description here that I wrote for myself, so I can actually send you the whole thing, and you can just click on the files. So Clay does all of our Instagram managing. He is the whiz kid behind social. I don't know how to do it, but he does, so he'll be posting that. And if you have anything more to add when you go to and you see this picture eventually on our Instagram page, please make a comment underneath. If we're wrong about something or if we've missed something, we want to hear it. This is an interesting place, but there's so much stuff to talk about. Again, like I said, 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. There's just not enough time in the world for the Bridgewater Triangle. So here's the part that Clay was really excited in the last episode to talk about.
Yes. Yes.
There have been Thunderbird sightings here. Lots of cryptids, but Thunderbird sightings. People who aren't familiar with Thunderbirds, there are giant birds or pterodactyl-like flying creatures with wingspans 8 to 12 feet and are claimed to have been seen in Hockomock Swamp in neighboring Taunton and Easton, including a report by Norton Police Sergeant Thomas Downey. He has seen this, and I can go into the police report, but again, I don't want to keep you guys on the line for the next 3 hours. But this police sergeant, he didn't want to actually say anything to ruin his credibility. A lot of people that have seen things in this swamp and around this area, especially in the forest surrounding it, they've been reluctant to say anything whatsoever because it sounds like you're crazy. It sounds like you're seeing something that's not there. But so many people have seen these Thunderbirds that I tend to believe, and I actually do believe in cryptids. It's something that we've seen ancient animals under the water that we had never discovered before, that we didn't even believe were in existence. So to say there's a giant bird with an 8 to 12 foot wingspan, and I don't believe all of the folklore behind Thunderbirds, which you guys can go ahead and check out more Thunderbird folklore and how they're magical beasts. I don't believe in the magic part of it, but the fact that they're cryptids, it could definitely be something that's possible.
I really like, though, that his name is listed, and it's not just including a report by a Norton Police Sergeant. Like earlier when you were talking about Solitude Stone, and it said that, you know, this is a stone with an inscription on it that was found near a missing person's body. That's so begging for more detail. So I like the fact that when we're reading things and researching topics and it has people's names, especially like credible, like a police officer's name, I think it just adds a lot to the story.
Oh, incidentally, I wanted to tell you one more time. In my notes, I have put links to everything that I can find. So if you want to actually read his report, I have put links here for you, Clay, and you can actually post clips of his report on our Instagram page if you'd like.
I'll do it.
And if not, then maybe we can add the links. But I have them here for you, so all I have to do is email them to you. And even the missing person, I have a link for that missing person on here too. You know, again, interesting. This is one of the things that we talk about a lot of scary places, but in our talking about scary, there's very little evidence that we can find of actual horrible things happening. I mean, we just did a talk about scary special that you can see, and it'll be on a lot of streaming platforms, called a Haunting at the Monte Vista. That's the Monte Vista Hotel in Flagstaff. So if you guys want to see that, it's a great episode. We found some stuff there I didn't think we'd find, so I'm actually really excited about that. But there's all these stories of like haunted bellboys and other things that have happened, but there's no historical proof of the actual occurrences, except save one or two things that happen there. And when we're talking about a place that's older, people are going to die there. There's a bunch of humans walking around. Eventually, someone's going to die somewhere. We're born places, we're going to die places, right? But the incidents in this place, even if it is 200 square miles, there's way too many for that 200 square miles, and it's some crazy stuff. And they've documented everything methodically. So I encourage our viewers, or our listeners, sorry, we're not doing video, to check out some of these things, and we'll add them to our Instagram. But
we're not doing video right now? I was in makeup earlier.
I was in makeup already. But again, cryptids. And you had something to say about some cryptids, right?
I do. I don't have any details because I only briefly read about this, but it looks like there have been Bigfoot-like sightings within the Bridgewater Triangle. As well as, obviously, thunderbirds, like we just talked about. And even giant snakes, which that's kind of...
That's curious, right?
That's interesting, yeah.
I was thinking, because it's probably around the swamp area, the bottom of swamps are generally, because of all the decay, can be slightly warmer because of all the decay that's going on at the bottom of the swamp. But when you're talking about these large snakes, coming from New England, I saw garter snakes all the time and things like that. Tiny little things that wouldn't hurt you.
Yeah, those are small.
Yeah, and a lot of those things go in hibernation and they hatch in late spring. And they're out in summer. But when you're talking about these giant snakes that can't warm themselves, they require a lot of heat. It could be possible that they could be under the swamp, right? But I don't picture them. And I've lived in some tropical areas too, Puerto Rico, and I lived in Florida, all various areas of Florida. And I've seen giant snakes in trees. You will see them. They're big effing snakes. But I can't picture living in New England for as long as I did. I have never saw huge snakes. So this would be really interesting, and I would love to be able to disprove this somehow.
Well, and I don't really think about giant snakes. I mean, I guess if they're in a place they're not supposed to be, I would think differently of them, but I don't really think of giant snakes being something that fits in the same category as Bigfoot. I mean, unless we're talking about something that's like, has the circumference of like 20 feet. You know, like just a huge freaking like 200-foot long snake, which I don't know if that's what they mean or not, because it just says giant snakes.
And there's no actual measurements of these snakes, by the way.
Yeah, so like if they're just talking about like boa constrictors or something, like, okay, well that's just an animal. Like, I guess if you see it out of its natural habitat, that would be alarming, but that's not the same as Bigfoot to me. Bigfoot is like something that isn't proven. Snakes, yeah, those are real.
Yeah. Now, I do believe that there could be Yetis and Bigfoots out there, right? Absolutely.
Sand people.
Nice. Let's leave all the Disney stuff alone this time. But I do believe these things can be possible. But you also have to, in science, if you're gonna outline the plausible, right? Then you're gonna have to also talk about a way to disprove it, right?
Yeah.
So, because that's what science is. Science is constantly the process of disproving a theory. That's how science works. And I know for a fact that I've seen bears in areas very similar to this, just a little further north. So it's logical to believe, since this is the same kind of climate, that people could have saw very large bears.
Well, and bears and Bigfoots both start with B's.
That's right. And have you ever seen a bear walk on his back legs?
Like in video, not in real life, no.
Bear skeletons look very similar to human skeletons.
Because they're fat, because they like hibernate and stuff.
Yeah. And but they look similar, right? So, and I've seen a bear skeleton, and it looks like a human skeleton almost until you see its face. But so I could see a bear. Also, something you didn't mention is giant cats.
I didn't see anything about giant cats.
Well, I'm telling you that there's been they say they've seen giant cats like bobcats or cougars, but they look bigger. Now, in New England, we do have bobcats. They are actually very large and terrifying, but they're saying that these things are much larger than any cat you've seen.
Is there like credible sources? Because like when my wife is like, there's a big spider over there, can you go kill it? And I go over there, it's like half the size of my pinky fingernail.
Yeah, this is not.
And I'm like, that's not no big spider.
If these people are if they're saying abnormally large cats, and they've seen bobcats that are the size that they can be in New England because they're very large, then they're like, these things are effing big. Like, so, no measurements, because no one's going to try to measure.
They don't walk around with measuring tape in their pockets like I do.
And get eviscerated by a giant forest cat.
I always have to be prepared for giant cats.
Yeah, I'm not going next to one. We have tiny bobcats here. I don't get close to them. I don't want to get cut up. They're still bigger than my house cat. But yeah, people have seen these things, and this isn't a thing that they should be seeing. And if there are cats that are that large, they're probably ancient. An ancient breed of whatever these things are. So,
well, I mean, I feel like the climate, like the natural habitat, kind of works for everything we're saying. I mean, okay, so you're talking, it's forest, swampland. Is it like
extremely dense forest too? It's a lot of forest.
It's dense, but I mean that's where like panthers and you know, like there's a lot of cats that live in like tropical rainforest, but there's also cats that live in the Arctic.
Yeah, they live everywhere.
So I feel like from an animal standpoint, the only one that really says scary to me, unless there's pictures of a enormous cat, is a Bigfoot.
See, I think the Thunderbird is, which I highlighted first.
Well, that too, but I mean, if they're only seeing them like
pterodactyl, like, come on.
If they're only seeing them in the sky, though, it's really hard to tell how something big is, because yeah, I mean, think about it for a second. If a plane went over and we didn't know what a plane was, you would think a plane is small, but a plane is actually very large. So until like if the bird is like landed, like if there's a picture of this thunderbird-like creature on a branch or on the ground, not flying, where someone has seen it in a different way than just its wings fully out, then that's different.
Don't you think that these animals that we talk about, these abnormally large animals, they're only in this triangle that people see them. They don't really see them outside of it. The interesting part of this is that there's a lot of missing people that go missing around these areas.
Oh, so the animals could have gotten them.
These giant animals, these giant cryptids could have got them, especially the giant snake.
But one thing I don't know if we've talked about yet, so let me go back here and just double check. This mostly swampland that the triangle is a part of, how far out of the triangle does that really extend? Because I'm looking at the picture of it, and I know it's not super detailed.
It doesn't. The swamp doesn't extend outside of the triangle. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, so it looks like the cities get more dense. Like there's more civilization just outside of the top over there, where like Canton and Norfolk and Franklin and Hanover and Norwell. I don't know these cities, but it looks like there's a lot more just outside of the top of the triangle. So what I'm trying to say is, if the swamp is in the triangle, it makes sense for the animals to only be within the triangle.
Interesting, though.
It is.
People have also called it a vortex, which is something we'll get into in other episodes when we talk about Sedona and places like that.
But that sounds kind of like other triangles, like the Bermuda Triangle.
Yep. Again, I know you like the Bermuda Triangle, and I'm a big fan of it, so I thought this would be kind of fun. And a little bit off, there's the spooky stuff. In talking about animals, there's been a lot...
Talk about animals.
Talk about animals. There's been a lot of animal mutilations in this area. Various incidents of animal mutilation have been reported, particularly in Freetown and Fall River. Fall River! Where local police were called to investigate mutilated animals believed to be the work of a cult. The cult we spoke about in the last episode. So if you haven't listened to that last episode, you should really pause this one. Go back and listen to the first one. Two specific incidents in 1998 were reported. One in which a single adult cow was found butchered in the woods. The other in which a group of calves were discovered in a clearing, grotesquely mutilated as if part of a ritual sacrifice. And again, we should start citing our references to all this stuff. But, you know, upon doing a lot of these investigations that we do, we don't just look at Google. We bust out books. I have some books behind me that I'll point out to Clay when we're finished.
Like Yahoo and Bing. We use
Bing.
Lots of search engines.
Lots. I have some books back here that I've used for some of the things, especially the more historical stuff, because that's what I went to college for originally. It was anthropology and criminology. But criminology doesn't really go very well with what we're doing. We talk about scary. Maybe in future episodes we'll talk about murders, but right now we're talking about scary. So anthropology fits really well. And sometimes we'll use Wikipedia, so a lot of the stuff we'll be pulling, you can actually look and read for yourself, and then we talk about it. But this part in particular about the mutilations you can find on Wikipedia. There's some links that I can give you, Clay, as well. But the sacrifices that you'll find that the crime scene pictures, if there's a few out there, they're not pleasant to look at. So trigger warning: if you don't like hurting animals. The idea of animals being hurt, then don't look these things up, because they're a little bit disturbing.
And I gotta say too, I think the cult aspect of the Bridgewater Triangle is the scariest thing to me. I mean, you've got the history, the tragedy, the large animals, everything we've talked about. But I think the cult thing is scary because I think cults in general, like those people are, whether they're joining because they want to, the majority of them are like brainwashed into believing that whatever it is that they're doing is what they have to do to either live or get what they want out of life. And they'll stop at nothing. So, I mean, yeah, you got animal mutilations, you've got people that are getting their skulls removed, you know, things of that nature. Like, that's just terrifying and violent. So,
no, absolutely. Now, according to folklore in the area, Native Americans had cursed the swamp centuries ago because of the conflict with the colonial settlers that they had. A revered object of the Wampanoag people is a belt known as the Wampum Belt. Okay, it was lost during King Philip's War, which, if you want to read about that and you don't want us to take 5 hours to explain this, please read about King Philip's War. Legend says that the area owes its paranormal unrest to the fact that this belt was lost from the native people. So yeah, look up King Philip's War. Basically, in a nutshell, everybody in America knows, and in Canada, that
AA maple syrup.
In Mexico,
burrito.
Not we, but the colonists screwed those people so massively that that there's a lot of folklore about Native American curses and burial grounds, and even the movie Poltergeist, it was built on a Native American burial ground, you know, the house. That's something that's popular in Judeo-Christian folklore now, you know, from this, you know, in these New World colonies in Canada and Mexico, and a very common theme throughout everything. So if you want to read about King Philip's War, go ahead and read about all the wars. And while you're at it, go read about the Long Walk. There's some horrible stuff that we did, Indian schools. So yeah, I wouldn't doubt if the land is cursed because of the stuff that happened to these people. But yeah, so that's why they believe that this triangle is so cursed. And now it's on to my favorite part. I can't wait to talk about it. I'm going to try not to ruin the pronunciation of this, but the Pukwudgie, okay?
what?
Pukwudgie, I think that's one of the pronunciations. It's actually spelled as if it's Pukwudgie, which is Pukwudgie. But, you know, sometimes Native American words have, like, you know, they're not phonetically spelled. So the pronunciation looks like Pukwudgie with Wudgeonini, Pukwudgeonini with two N's, but there's no N's in the spelling. Anyway, this is a creature from Algonquin folklore. I believe Milwaukee is Algonquin for the good land.
Milwaukee? Like Wisconsin?
Yeah, Milwaukee. Anyway, and I actually learned that from Alice Cooper on originally from Alice Cooper on Wayne's World, but then I had to look it up, and it's true. So enjoy that. The local Wampanoag people consider them to be dangerous tricksters. They have been especially associated with the Freetown State Forest within the Bridgewater Triangle. These little shits. This is cool. I had to curse a little bit. I'm sorry. We try to keep this PG.
You curse the land?
Now it's PG-13. So the word Pukwudgie it means a little man of the woods that vanishes. It's a human-like creature found in Delaware in Wampanoag folklore, sometimes said to be 2 to 3 feet tall, or for our Canadian and other worldly listeners, 61 to 91 centimeters. A couple apples high there, little smurfs in the forest.
These are small.
So these little shits are very dangerous. And I don't know if this is real. There's been people who have said they've seen them, and we might actually delve more into these guys in a future episode, because I find this to be super, super fun. I think you had an email. To be super, super fun.
Hashtag famous.
So I'm not going to get too much into them on this episode. You've got the picture of what they are. But I think they sound awesome. Listen to this. According to legend, the Pukwudgies can appear and disappear at will, lure people to their deaths, use magic, launch poison arrows, and create fire. I think we can all create fire, but I think they do it magically. Native Americans believe that they were once friendly to humans, but then turned against them and are best left alone. According to lore, a person who annoyed a Pukwudgie would be subject to nasty tricks by it, or the subject being followed by the Pukwudgie, who would cause trouble for them. They are known to kidnap people, push them off cliffs, attack victims with short knives and spears, and use sand to blind their victims. These guys sound like the little people on the Elder Scrolls. What were they called? I forget. The Riken or something like that. They sound just like them, and they're the same height, and they're very nasty. I'm almost positive because Bethesda is located in New England, Bethesda Studios. I think that they used these as their prototype for that in that game. And they're very nasty and very hard to kill. They ride like these little boars in the game. They have these tusks that they charge at you. And so if you like the Elder Scrolls, I love them, and I love Bethesda. Guys, I hope if anybody from Bethesda is listening, please invite Clay and I out to Bethesda Studios so we can hang out and talk about Skyrim 6, please, or the Elder Scrolls 6. Don't leave us hanging. Clay knows how important it is to me. I think I have all the figurines from all of the different from Diabella and all those. I have those, all the little statues. According to the book Weird New England, you were talking about, Bigfoot sightings have occurred there. Okay, so you know, they if you want to read Weird New England, it's there. So it's more cryptid stuff. The book contends that creatures are generally calm, but at one point in the 1970s, one went haywire, killing pigs and sheep belonging to local farmers. Police with attack dogs searched the swamp for 2 days, but found no sign of the Bigfoot creature. Sounds like a hungry bear.
It does, and I wanted to touch on
the Pukwudgies.
The Pukwudgies.
Pukwudgies?
I feel like every single culture, like the more you think about it, it's actually kind of creepy because...
Well, pygmy spearmen?
Well, not just that in general, but everything. Like how people built things, tricksters, just everything in every culture, even in olden times when they couldn't actually talk to each other because you'd have to cross continents. They all had very similar stories. For example, I'm going to go to my favorite place, Hawaii, real quick, because what you said sounds exactly like the Menehune, which are a mythological dwarf people from Hawaiian tradition who are said to live deep in the forests and hidden valleys on various Hawaiian islands. And they're kind of the same thing. They're tricksters. Locals kind of warn the tourists about them, but they're said to have built temples and roads and canoes and houses and similarly push people off of cliffs. So I don't know if that's just like a little person's way of feeling big, but...
But see, so they have these things. Also, there's legends of them in the South America, the Central America. There's legends of these things in the rainforests. Mm-hmm. I think that very interesting that there's so many places that have linked a very similar kind of thing that at the time I don't think they had any
communication.
Yeah. So interesting. So either everybody's seeing these things, or it's just one of those things that scientists you can link, like the deity complex. Every people on this great earth has this idea of a deity, and before we had organized religion, we were creating deities. We were creating Zeus and ancient Roman mythology, and even the flood motif is something that has been in almost every single religion. So could it be one of these things where we all have a common idea because it's just something near and dear? We see children running around with like spears in their hand as kids. We come up with these ideas to scare children, or
Or it could just be
tell
that
morals.
they happened, and like there were these little people on multiple different continents.
I think they're awesome.
Yeah,
I hope they're real because that is hilarious to me. So there's one guy
I
that's
believe
walking
more
a
that
dog.
they used to be real.
Maybe. So there's one guy, and I don't have it here, and I'm sorry. We'll have to talk more about them in a different episode. But he was a really reputable human being. I believe he was another police officer, but don't quote me on that. And he's walking his dog. This is years and years and years ago. And he sees one. And he didn't want to tell anybody because he didn't want anybody to think he was crazy. And it spoke in a language that sounded like his dog, he had a giant dog, and the dog was freaking out. And it sounded like he was trying to talk to him in whatever language, and he kept repeating this chant to him. And it sounded like it was almost like he was like, "Hey, you, come here," but it was like in a different language. And he just started backing up. This giant dog that towered over this little thing wanted nothing to do with him, and they went the other way. And we'll talk about that. We're definitely going to go back to these guys in a different episode because there's a lot of stuff in this area about them that I can never touch on. It's going to be too much. And we like to keep it brief. We like to keep it nice. You know what I mean? We're running like 30 minutes now. We don't want to keep you guys here forever.
Talk about keeping it brief.
Talk about keeping it brief. We don't, on to the next episode, right? But so anyway, real cool. And then so these guys could be another kind of like cryptid creature. I would say to go along with. Just because they're humanoid doesn't mean they're not cryptids. Going along with Bigfoot, because Bigfoot's a humanoid evidently, and then with the Thunderbirds or the giant snakes. So I wanted to touch on that. Now,
you know who doesn't like snakes?
Who?
Indiana Jones.
He hates snakes. There's so much stuff to cover.
I had to touch on it one more
This
time.
is such a long episode. I'm so sorry. It could have been a 3-part episode. Okay, Profile Rock. Okay, now in the Fall River Freetown State Forest is the largest in the state and a location that has been tied to some grisly murders. Bodies, discoveries, rumors, and satanic activity. Some paranormal experts argue that there is a strong negative energy that encompasses the forest, and it's the reason for strange happenings there. Others believe that the forest is so simply accessible just off Route 24. And Asenet is the name of the town. We can leave that alone. And it's so vast that people in surrounding towns utilize it to cover up their crimes. So they're thinking that a lot of people are just dumping bodies there and stuff because it's such a big place. So I like to put that in there because I don't like to say, is it ghosts? Or all the time. I like to let's be scientists about this a little bit.
But I like the theory of maybe there's something wrong with the land. I think there are places on the planet that are, I'm going to use the word haunted or more mysterious, whatever you want to call it. Negative, I guess. I think there are places on the planet that are just more prone to activity, various things, whatever it might be. Obviously we've talked about the Bermuda Triangle. I think there's some weird things going on there. I don't know that it's necessarily triangle-sized lands always, exclusively, but...
Triangles are one of the shapes in nature that are the most common and the strongest shape. And guys, there's so much stuff to talk about. We didn't realize we're starting to run out of time again. So we're going to have to come back and do a part 3. Yay for you. Hope you are as excited as we are. We haven't even got to the ghost stuff yet.
Yay.
So ghost stuff next episode. Hope you guys
Indiana Jones and the ghost.
And the ghosts. So stay tuned. Part 3, we're going to have lots of ghosts and alien stuff. Believe it or not. Alien stuff.
I like aliens.
Aliens is my favorite thing. That is possible. So stay tuned for part 3. Now we have a part 3 of the Bridgewater Triangle. Sorry guys, nothing I can do about it. There's just too much stuff, and I don't want you to miss anything.
If you think about it, triangles have 3 sides. Part 1, part 2,
and part
3.
That's right. That's true.
It's gotta be aliens.
Aliens. It has to be all aliens. So until next time, guys, creep it real. Creep it real. All right, guys. Talk to you later, creeps. That was a good way to end it.
Yeah, that's
I don't mind it at all. It's just